All right, welcome back to Genius. Okay, so in this session, let's talk about arithmetic operators. Okay, we have a lot of arithmetic operators, but in this session, we'll be talking about the addition operator. Okay, we'll just take it one by one. We have addition, we have subtraction, we have multiplication. Okay, so arithmetic operators in Python, they are used to perform mathematical operations. So all those mathematical operations you perform when you do your mathematics, we also do that in programming too. So if you want to add two numbers, if you want to subtract two numbers, remember all we are working with in computer is data. Okay, so you might want to add the data might be numbers that you want to add, you want to check, you want to add numbers, you want to subtract, you want to multiply, you want to divide. Okay, all those mathematical operations that we do in mathematics, we can do them here, and there are more. Okay, there are the ones we call modulus. If you want to get the remainder of a division operation, you use the modulus. There's another one we call integer division. So we are going to take them one by one. But in this session, let's take a look at addition operator. Okay, we are going to be looking at it and we are going to do a lot of exercises showing you exactly how you use them. Okay, so addition operator in Python is used to perform addition between two numbers. So these two numbers can be integers or floats. Do you understand? It can be decimal numbers or it can be whole numbers. So you can do addition between these two numbers. Or you can also use it to concatenate sequence like strings. You can say this string plus this string. Do you understand? You can also do with list and tuples. So in as much as we might not really understand what list and tuples are, but we are just going to talk about them a little, but we will have separate chapters for them. So now, first of all, you use them in addition with numbers. So let's take a look at how we do it. So we have this with this plus operator that's use the plus symbol. So use it to add two numeric values, integers, floats, or complex numbers. So if you want to add two numbers, let's say you have a variable called a, and this variable is assigned the term value. We have another one that's assigned 5. So we can now say result is equal to a plus b. All right. So this will give us 15. Now, there is something we haven't mentioned before. You see this pound symbol, this hashtag, okay? It's used to indicate comment. So comments don't really, when you comment, although comment is something that we have talked about comment in the previous session. So, but comment, you actually use comment to make a note. All right, make a note, but the interpreter will not interpret it. So if I take you to our website, okay, I take you to our website and okay, so let's go to our code editor. So I have two numbers. All right, I have I have A is equal to 10 and I have B is equal to 5. So if I want to add these two numbers, okay, and the thing is that the addition operator will return the result of the expression. So I can also store it in a variable, okay? So result is equal to, because if I do A plus B, this will return the result. So I am not storing it in another variable. So if I do pound and I now say it will give us 10 plus 5, which is equal to 15. All right. So this is a comment. I just wrote a comment. You can see that the color changes. All right. Now, the interpreter would ignore it. All right. We use it to make notes, to describe what we are doing, to make notes so that other programmers would understand our code, or even ourselves would also understand our code. So when I run this now, okay, if I now say print, result, so what am I doing here? I have a variable that I stored 10. I have another variable that I stored 5. So, and I'm not saying I want to add A plus B. That means I am adding their values. What do they contain? Remember what variables are. So the A variable contains 10. That's the data is contained, and B contains 5. So if I do the addition, this is called an expression. This whole thing actually is called an expression. All right? This whole thing is called an expression. We are going to explain better. Okay, so this whole thing is called an expression. So A plus B, an expression is just variables plus operands. Okay, so now this is just an expression, and this expression is returning something, and we are storing the result of this expression into this variable. Okay, so if I say run now, we are going to get the output here, which will be 15. Okay, so this is how you do addition with numbers. Okay, I can also just say, instead of using variables, I can just use numbers like this. Okay, 28 plus, I can just use literal values like this. All right, I can just use literal values like this, and when I run it, I'll get that should be 104. Okay, so that is it. All right, so this is how you add at the two numbers. Okay, so remember this pound symbol or this hashtag is a comment. So if you write it in a code editor, it will actually change, and the interpreter will not run this code. So when you say print result, we are going to get 15. Okay, so we can also add floats. Remember, floats is a data type that we use to represent decimal. Okay, numbers that contain the decimal points. Okay, so A is equal to 4.5, B is equal to 2.3, and when we do A plus B here, we are going to get 4.5 plus 2.3, we are going to get 6.8. Okay, so you can also do addition of numbers and floats. Let me show you. So if I say I am doing 76.99. So you can see this first one, the 28 is an integer, but the 76.99 is a float. So there are two different data types. But if I run this code now, it is going to work because I don't know how to explain this thing for you to understand. Okay, there will be a type conversion here implicitly. All right, there will be a type conversion. So the integer will be converted to the float. All right, and when we run this thing, the result will not be a float. So we are going to get a float as the result. All right. So if I say type of result now, if I say type of this result, okay, if I run this now, the type is float. Oh, sorry. Sorry. That's a very big error. Sorry. What was I even thinking? And okay, I think it's correct now. All right. So the type of this result is a float. So what we are doing here implicitly, Python will convert this integer to float. So when you do integer and float addition, it would work, but the result would be a float. Okay. So you can also do addition with strings. That's concatenation. You can add two strings together. So, but we don't call it addition. We actually call it concatenation. So I can add string hello to word. So if I say concatenating strings, so look at it. I have first name, okay? I have last name. So if I want to join these two to become a full name, so we can do something like this. So we are saying the first name, which is a string, all right, remember, is a variable that is containing John as a value, plus. Now, because I want a space to be between the two, so I'll add a space, I will say plus, I'll add a space here, then plus last name. So when we print this, then we are going to get John Doe. So let me show you, okay? So if I say first name is equal to John, and last name is equal to Doe. Okay. I'll say full name is equal to. So I will now say first name plus. All right. Let me do this first before I will do the next thing I want to do. I'll say first name plus last name. And if I print full name, I'm going to get John Doe, but there will be no space in between them. But that is not what you would want. It doesn't make sense like this. So because we would want a space in between them, what I'll do now is that I would say plus an empty space like this. Okay, so when I run this now, we're going to have a space. So this is called string concatenation. I am adding John. I could actually just say John plus Doe here right away. I could just use the string literal and I say and John like this, and okay, I could use this string literal and also use the variable, so anyone works. Okay, so just play around with it and you'll see what you get. Okay, so this is called string concatenation. All right, we can use it to put two strings together to form another string. Okay, so important note: if you try to add a string and a number, Python will throw an error. If you try to add a string and a number, Python will throw an error. So look at this. We have age, and we say message is equal to age plus string age. So if you want to do this, if you try to do this, add string to a number, there will be an error. But what you can do is to convert it first. So now let me show you an example. Now imagine I have, okay, imagine I have age. Imagine I have age equal to 25, and I'm not trying to concatenate. Look at what I'm doing. I'm concatenating, I'm adding age. Now remember, the age is an integer. Why these other ones are strings? So if you try to concatenate or add integers with strings, you get an error. Okay, they are not of the same type. It says can only concatenate string, not int. Okay, so because we are trying to concatenate age, which is an integer data type, with the string, it doesn't work. All right, it's like you mixing oil with water. All right, it will not go well. Okay, it will not go well. So there are two different data types. So what you can do is, if you want to do this, all you have to do is to, you can use the convert, you can convert this age, which is an integer, to string first. So this is how you can do it. You can convert it to a string first. So if I run now, we are going to see age printed as 25, but it is a string. Okay? It has worked because this is a string. And if you also try to let's say I have another variable and I just say this is string 100. Okay? It looks as if we can actually still do age plus num. Let me do age plus no, normally we are looking at, because we see that this thing is 100. Remember, this is not a number. This is not an integer. It is a string. In as much as it contained a 100 value, it is a string. So if you try to run this, you still get an error. You're trying to add, you're adding integer with you're adding integer to a string, so it will not work. So what you would do is this: since you know that this could give you 100, so all you have to do is to say, okay, let me convert it. Remember, we did type conversion. I will now convert it. So I'll put everything inside this parenthesis. I will convert. This is it. This is the conversion here. All right. So I will convert it age plus. Then I will convert this num. So if I now convert it now, it will run well because there will be no issues. Okay. So we now get 100 plus 25, which is 125. But you have to do these conversions before it would work. Okay. So that is how it works. So you can also do addition with list and tuples. So list, we haven't talked about it, but list is just something you use to have more than one value. All right, variable, you use it to get just one value. But if you have more than one value, multiple values you want to store in a variable, you use list or tuples. Okay. So now we can also use the operator, the plus operator, the addition operator, to combine two lists by appending the second list to the first one. So if I have a list like this, list one contains 1, 2, 3, and list two contains 4, 5, 6. So if I do something like this, list one plus list two, it is now going to take everything in list two and be adding them to this one. So one after the other. So it will take 4, add it to the back of 3, that it will now be 1, 2, 3, 4. It will take 5, add it to the back of 4. It will now be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will take 6, add it to the back of 5. It will now be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's what we mean by appending. Okay. So don't worry, we'll talk about this later on and you're going to understand it. So if I run this code now, let me show you. If I have list 1 is equal to 1, 2, 3, and I have list 2 equal to 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I can now say list 3 is equal to list 1 plus list 2. Okay, so if I print list 3 now, this is what we are going to have. So this whole thing will be appended. Like I said, it will take list 2 one by one. So you take the first item, add it to list 1. It will now be 1, 2, 3, 4. You now take list the second item, which is 5, add it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's how it goes until the whole elements are being added. So at the end of the day, we are going to get a full list like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right. So you can also do the same thing with tuples. All right. Tuples and lists are almost the same thing, but the difference is that instead of using square brackets, you use parentheses. But don't worry, when we get there, we're going to show you the difference. But for now, just understand that you can do addition operation on the list and tuples, and basically they are just the same thing that happened: 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6. If you do an addition like this, you will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But the difference is now that the tuple will not be parentheses. The elements will be enclosed in parentheses, while the elements in the list will be enclosed in square brackets. Okay? So that is how you do addition with list and tuples. So now there's something we call the shorthand addition. Okay? Look at it. This, it says plus equal to operator. So this is what we call the shorthand addition operator. Plus equal to. Instead of saying plus, all right, you say plus equal to. There will be no spacing between them. So they add a value to a variable and updates it. So look at what we mean. If I say s equal to 10, and then I will now say s plus equal to 5, it is equivalent of me saying s plus 5. Okay, let me go to code. Let me write some code here and show you. Okay, if I say x is equal to 10, and I will now say x is plus equal to 5. Look at what is going to happen. Let me just print it first before I explain. If I print x, all right, it's going to print 15. So basically what we have done here is that we are saying add 5 to the value of x. The value of x is 10. So add 5 to it. So this is equivalent of me saying x is equal to x plus 5. Is equivalent. All right, but instead of me to say x equal to x plus 5, so I'm saying take the value of x, add it to 5, then take whatever the result is and store it back in x. So reassign whatever we get here as the result, reassign it to x. So that's the same thing. And if I try to run this code now, guess what? We'll get 20 because we have, first of all, added 5 here, and then we're adding another 5 here. So if I run it now, we'll get 20. So I believe you understand how it works. So because we did this here and we did this here, so the both commands run, okay? So, but if you want to comment it out, you can actually use the hashtag. Okay, so if I run this now, it will still be 15 because this code will not be executed, it will not be interpreted. Okay, so if I run it now, we still get back 15. All right, so we can also do shorthand with strings. Just is the same thing. Okay, plus equal to. All right, instead of you saying it's just equivalent, the same thing. Okay, okay. So if you say instead of me to say I have first name, or I could just say x equal to John. Sorry, x equal to John, and I can now say x plus equal to do. But because I would want a space, I will just put space before the do. Then if I run this now, this is equivalent of me saying s plus do. So if I print out s, now we are going to have John Doe. I believe you understand how this works. So instead of me to do this, instead of me to say, let me comment it out. Instead of me to say s is equal to s plus do. Okay, so I need to do this. All right, I am doing this. So this is called a shorthand addition operator. Okay, so don't worry. As we go on writing code, you're going to see more of it. All right, so we can also do this plus this shorthand addition with list. It works the same way. All right, it works the same way. just the same way. So try it out yourself. Create two lists, create the first list and use the shorthand to add another list. Just try it out yourself and see how it works, okay? So there's another thing we'd also do. So sometimes you might, the value you want to add, it might be coming from a user. So, but what I'm going to do now, people who are using their mobile phone might not get it, might not do it because they're using mobile phone. So for me to explain this thing, I'm going to use a text editor or I'm going to use the shell interpreter. So look at it. If you take input, okay, if you want to get input from a user, let's say you're running a code. Okay, let me show you. I think I have this code running here. Okay, so if you're using a laptop, you can do this with me. But if you're not using a laptop, no problem. Okay, just watch what we are doing. Okay, so with what I have here, okay, if I want to, okay, let's say I have a script like this, and I want to get an input from the user. I will say num is equal to, I will use this method, this function that is, this function is provided by Python. So I will say enter a number, okay? I will say enter a number. So if I run this code now, okay? If I say enter a number, then I will now say print num, okay? So if I run this code now, so I will run it in the terminal here. Okay, so I will run it in the terminal here. So I'll say Python because the file I am running is hello_world.py. So if I run this now, okay, look at it, will expect me to say enter a number. So this is how you get input from a user. So in case you're writing an interactive application like this, so when you get this input from the user, if I say 45, it will print 45. And after getting it, I stored it in here and it printed 45 for me because I asked it to print it out. So let's try to check the type of this variable that we got. All right. So let's check the type. So I will run this again. I will say 78. And you see the type here, it printed out the type. The type is a string. So if you make the mistake of saying, okay, the user gave me a number, okay, and I will now say, I go on to now say, okay, the number the user gave me, I will now say num plus 87. Remember the error we got the other time. This num is a string and 87 is an integer. So if we run this code now, we'll get an error because we are trying to add integer and string. You see, we got this error. It says can only concatenate string. So here, because the first variable in this expression is a string, so Python would think that the whole thing, that the second one should be a string. That is why it now thought it's concatenation. Okay, instead of addition, it sees it as concatenation because the first one is a string. All right, so but if I change this thing now and start with 87, okay, I want you to understand this. If I change this and start with 87, okay, so the error message will change. I will have to clear. So the error message is good. Oh, sorry. The error message will change now. It will now say cannot support addition. You understand? So because the first value here is an integer, it assumes that we are trying to do addition. But if I change it and this first value here being a string, it would assume is concatenation. So in order for what you need to do right here is to do what? Is to convert this thing first. Convert it first. Okay, convert it first. Then when you run this code, now it will be perfect. It will be perfect. There is no error. But if you don't want to do it here, okay, but I think this could be the simplest way. But if you don't want to do it here, you can also um, just play around with this thing if you're using a computer. You can say whatever this thing is going to return for you, you can wrap it inside the int function. So whatever it got, it will now convert it to an integer. So if you run this code now, it will work perfectly well. All right. So play around with this thing if you're using a laptop, okay? And in case you're not using Visual Studio Code, you can actually still, okay, let me show you in case you're not using Visual Studio Code. Open open the folder where you have whatever script you want to run. So I can right click and click on open in terminal. Okay. If I open this, I'm opening this folder in this terminal. So I can now say Python. I'll say hello, hello underscore world. That's the name of the file of the script. So no such file is, oh, sorry. That's a typo. Instead of hello, I typed hell. Okay, so you say enter a number. I do this. You see, it works. So it's either you use the command shell, the command prompt here, the PowerShell, or you use the command prompt, or you can still use the IDLE. Okay. All right. So that's by the way. So when you do this, make sure that you convert it to either integers or strings. Sorry, either integers or floats. Okay, so when you get an input like this from a user, make sure you convert it. You wrap the input function inside of the integer function. Okay, so when you do this, there will be no error. So now let's take a look at common errors and how to fix them. When you're working with addition operator, there are some common errors that could come up. So let's take a look at them. The first issue is this, adding a number and a string. We have seen that a lot already. We have seen that practical, okay? So when you try to add a number and a string, you get an error. The error will say can only concatenate string to string, okay? So when you're trying to add a number and a string, okay, depending on which variable came first in the expression, okay? The solution is to convert the number to a string or convert the string to the number, depending on what you want to do. Do you want to do concatenation or do you want to do addition? So it's up to you to not do, but you have to do conversion. All right. So another common error is adding list with numbers. So the error will say can only concatenate list to list, not list to integers. So if you try to do something like if you try to do something like this, let me show you. I have a list, okay? And this list is 1, 2, 3. And I will now come and say list 2. I will say list 1 plus 1. This will not work. There will be an error. Okay, let's run it. There will be an error. You can't do this. You can't do this. But you can actually concatenate, add a list to another list. But you cannot come and say, because there are two different data types. One is an integer. List is a list. The list one is a list. So you can't do this. But the only way you can do this is you can just say list 1 dot append. But don't worry, you don't need to know about this now. You can just say list1 dot append, and there will be no error. Though I'm not going to print anything, but there will be no error. Okay, but there is no output because I'm not outputting anything. Okay, so let me say instead of 1, let me do 4. So, but let me now print this. So instead of you concatenating or adding a number directly to a list, it would not work, right? It would not work. So you will use the append function. Don't worry, we'll talk about that when we start talking about list. Okay. Is printed none. Is there any error here? Am I having any error? Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. Sorry. When I do list.append I should be printing list1. Okay, but because this is appending to the return value of the append is a non-value. So sorry about that. Don't worry about that. Okay. So if I do append, I'm adding this into the list one, so I can still have it. So if I run now print list1, I can see 4 in it. So if you run this command, list.append, you put in the number you want to add, then it will be available in the list. So when you print out the original list, you get 4 in it now. All right. Another common error is forgetting to convert user input. I just showed you that now. So whenever you're getting input from a user, always convert it because the data type you'll be getting from the user is a string. So you have to convert it to either a string or to a float. Okay. So now let's take a look at real world use cases. Okay. When you have a price in your shopping cart, you have price one, you have price two. When you add the two of them, you're going to get the total price. Okay, so this, although I have shown you some examples here, so this is where you can do some calculations, additions. Okay, when you can also concatenate username for a welcome message. Okay, let's say the person's username is Alice and you want to welcome that person. You will now say welcome, okay, comma, space, plus username, plus exclamation mark. So this is string concatenation. The first one we are concatenating, the first one is a string plus username, which is also a string, plus the exclamation mark. So you can just try this thing yourself. If you have any error, figure it out. Okay, make sure that make sure that you're writing the things in strings. Okay, and the double quotes are in order. So when you print this thing, you're going to get welcome Alice, and this Alice now has an exclamation mark at the end. So in conclusion, the addition operator is versatile and works with numbers, strings, lists, and tuples. Okay. So, but when you're doing this addition operator on numbers, you're doing addition. When you're using this operator on strings, you're doing concatenation. When you're doing it on lists, you're actually merging the two lists and the tuples. Okay. So for integer, for numbers, you're doing addition operation. For strings, you're doing concatenation operation. If you use it for list, you're doing merging, you're merging the two lists. If you're doing it for tuples, you're merging the two tuples, okay? So we also showed you the shorthand addition, and be mindful of type conversions when using different data types. So when you're doing addition, and the additions are actually of different data types, be aware of it. But if you're adding an integer to a float, there will be no issues. Python will convert the whole thing, will convert it for you implicitly and give you the result as float. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this session. I will see you in the next session. Make sure you do your assignment, okay? And make sure you pass your test. See you in the next session.